Three children boarded a bus to the beach at 10 a.m. By 3 p.m., they had vanished so completely that Australia is still searching 60 years later. January 26, 1966, Australia Day. Glenelg Beach, near Adelaide, was packed with thousands of families escaping a brutal 40-degree heat wave. 9-year-old Jane Beaumont held her little brother Grant's hand as they stepped off the bus, her 7-year-old sister Arnna beside her. They had done this trip dozens of times. It was a 5-minute ride from their home in Somerton Park. Their mother, Nancy, told them to catch the noon bus home. They never did. No bodies, no witnesses to an abduction, no ransom note, nothing, except one detail that still makes investigators lose sleep. When Jane bought lunch that day, she paid with a £1 note. Her mother had only given her small coins. Someone else gave Jane that money, and whoever it was the last person to ever see the Beaumont children alive. To understand why this case broke Australia, you need to understand 1966. Adelaide was a city where nobody locked their doors. Children roamed free all summer, and a 9-year-old escorting her siblings to the beach wasn't neglect. It was normal. Jim and Nancy Beaumont were an ordinary working-class couple. Jim sold linen door to door. That morning, he left for a sales trip to the town of Snowtown, a name that would, decades later, become infamous for entirely different horrors. Nancy walked the kids to the bus stop on Diagonal Road, gave them 8 shillings and 6pence for lunch, and waved goodbye. Jane was responsible beyond her years, bookish, careful, shy around strangers, which is exactly why what witnesses saw next made no sense at all. Because on that crowded beach, multiple people watched quiet, cautious Jane Beaumont laughing and playing with a grown man nobody had ever seen before. At around 11 a.m., an elderly woman sitting near Collie Reserve watched the 3 Beaumont children playing under a sprinkler with a man. He was tall, over 6 feet, thin face, blonde hair swept back, mid-30s, wearing navy swimming trunks. He was flicking the children with his towel as they shrieked with laughter. This wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows. The children clearly knew him, trusted him. At 11:45, a shopkeeper at Wenzel's Bakery served Jane. She bought pasties and a meat pie, and paid with that £1 note. Here's the detail that haunts investigators. The children never bought a meat pie. That pie was for someone else. At 12:15, another witness saw the man dressing the children, helping little Grant with his shorts, an act of shocking familiarity. Then, around 3 p.m., a local postman who knew the family saw all 3 children walking alone near Jetty Road, holding hands, laughing. He said they seemed happy. He was the last confirmed person to ever see them. But wait, the noon bus. Jane never missed a bus in her life. Why were they still there at 3 p.m.? By 7:30 p.m., Nancy Beaumont was standing at the bus stop watching the last bus arrive empty. Jim drove the streets of Glenelg all night, headlights sweeping empty sand. At dawn, they called the police and triggered the largest manhunt in Australian history. Hundreds of officers, thousands of volunteers. They drained storm drains, searched the sand hills, dragged the sea. Aircraft swept the coastline. The government offered a reward worth millions in today's money. Nothing. Then things got strange. In November 1966, a Dutch psychic named Gerard Croiset flew to Adelaide amid a media frenzy. He declared the children were buried beneath a warehouse near the beach. The public was so desperate they raised $40,000 to demolish the building. They tore up the floor. Empty. 2 years later, the Beaumonts received letters, supposedly written by Jane herself, claiming a man was keeping them safe. Jim and Nancy drove to a designated meeting point, hearts pounding, and waited. No one came. A second letter arrived mocking them. The man had seen a disguised detective and decided the parents had betrayed him. 25 years later, forensics proved the letters were a hoax written by a teenager. But the real answer may have been hiding in plain sight, just 300 meters from the beach. His name was Harry Phipps, a wealthy factory owner, pillar of the community, and his mansion sat almost directly across from Collie Reserve, the exact spot where the children were last seen playing. For decades, no one looked at him twice. Then, in 2007, his own son came forward with a story that turned the case inside out. He claimed that on Australia Day 1966, as a 15-year-old, he saw 3 children matching the Beaumonts' descriptions inside his father's yard. He described his father as violent, disturbed, a man with a fetish for satin who was known to hand out crisp 1-pound notes. Remember the pound note Jane used at the bakery? The note her mother never gave her. 2 brothers then came forward with something worse. They claimed that around that time, Phipps paid them to dig a large hole, roughly 2 meters deep, at his Castalloy factory in North Plimpton. They were teenagers. They dug it, took the money, and asked no questions. In 2018, 52 years after the disappearance, police excavators finally tore open the factory floor while the nation held its breath. They found animal bones, nothing more. But investigators later admitted something chilling. They may have been digging just meters from the right spot. Phipps died in 2004, taking whatever he knew to his grave. But he was never the only suspect. There was Bevan Spencer von Einem, a convicted child killer active in Adelaide, who an informant claimed once bragged about taking 3 children from a beach and performing experiments on them. There was Arthur Stanley Brown, charged with the eerily similar 1970 abduction of 2 young sisters in Queensland. And there was one detail from before the disappearance that Nancy Beaumont could never forget. Weeks earlier, Arnna had mentioned, almost casually, that Jane had a boyfriend down at the beach. Nancy laughed it off as a child's game. After January 26th, those words became a knife. Had the tall, blonde man been grooming the children for weeks, befriending them, buying them treats, earning the trust of careful, shy Jane, until the one day he needed them to follow him? It would explain everything. The laughter, the familiarity, the meat pie bought for a 4th person, the children walking away from the beach at 3 p.m., happy, holding hands, walking toward someone they thought was a friend. Jim and Nancy Beaumont never moved. For decades, they stayed in the same house on Harding Street, keeping the children's rooms untouched, in case Jane, Arnna, and Grant ever found their way home. They never did. The waiting slowly destroyed the marriage, and the couple eventually separated, though they remained bound by a grief no one else could understand. Nancy died in 2019. Jim followed in 2023. At 97 years old, after spending 57 years waiting for a knock at the door that never came. The case remains open. The reward, $1 million, remains unclaimed. Someone gave Jane Beaumont that pound note. Someone bought that meat pie. Someone watched 3 children walk away from Glenelg Beach and knew with absolute certainty that they would never be seen again. And here's the thought that should keep you up tonight. If the witnesses were right about his age, that man could have lived among ordinary Australians for decades. A neighbor, a grandfather, a friendly face at the shops. So what do you think really happened on Australia Day 1966? Drop your theory in the comments below. And if you want more cases that history couldn't solve, you know what to do. Thousands of people watched this case unfold and still can't explain what happened. But the next mystery we covered? Even the experts walked away shaking their heads. Subscribe and hit that bell. A new mystery drops every single day.